Thinking of starting a business in Japan? Setting up a company here can feel like a mountain of paperwork and requirements. But today, we are going to simplify every step you need to know for registering your business in Japan in 2025. Welcome to the SmartStart Japan's YouTube channel. I'm Heikin, the content creator here. At SmartStart Japan, we specialize in helping entrepreneurs from around the world successfully launch and grow their business in Japan. Whether you're just exploring the market or ready to take the plunge, we have got you covered. Through our SmartStart, Smart Boost, and Smart Growth services, we provide comprehensive support on incorporation, subsidies and loan support, and revenue growth. Now, let me introduce our team. First, we have Tyson, our co-founder. Tyson is a seasoned entrepreneur and a mentor at 500 Global, currently advising over 35 companies, and he will be helping you with all the growth and advisory needs in Japan. Next, we have our co-founder and star of the show, Taejin Yoon. Born and raised in Japan, TJ brings years of experience in international relations and investment advisory. Fluent in both English and Japanese, he has guided over 10 companies through the incorporation process and successfully managed to apply for 40 subsidies and loans applications in Japan. TJ is your go-to for navigating the complex setup requirements here at Japan. And finally, here's me, Heikin. I'm the marketing manager and content creator here at SmartStart Japan, bringing you insights on how to launch your businesses, to file all your required paperwork for incorporation in Japan. Let's also talk about who this video is for. If you would like to live and run a business in Japan, you already live in Japan and would like to set up a business, setting up a company in Japan, or if you would like to set up a branch office in Japan. The contents of this video and this presentation has been checked by our co-founder and our fulfillment specialist, TJ. Here are a few topics that we will talk about in this video, so you can skip to the right section if you only care about, for example, the key requirements before you start your incorporation process. We will first talk about 1. Visa requirements, 2. Choosing the right business structure, 3. Key requirements before you start, 4. Step-by-step registration process, and 5. Tax, insurance, and licensing for your business. So without further ado, let's dive right in. So first, types of business visa for starting a business in Japan. So let's dive right in. To start a business in Japan, you will need one of 2 main types of visas. They are either business-related visas or a family-related visas. To keep this video more concise, we will be focusing on business-related visa for this video. For those who have a family-related visas and wish to start a company in Japan, this is also an area we can help with. So visit smartstartjapan.com for more information and contact us. Back to the type 1 business-related visa. There are 4 main types of business-related visa, which is the business manager visa, the high-skilled professional visa, the starter visa, and the J-Fine visa. We'll break down each of the visa and their requirement one by one in the coming slides. So finally, before we get into each business-related visa, we know that many people with regular work visas in Japan also want to start their own businesses. This is a common question we receive with our inquiries. Essentially, you will need to transition to a business manager visa or one of the other visas mentioned here. Having either a type 1 business or a type 2 visa is essential to establish a business. So let's talk about the business manager visa first. The business manager visa is a popular choice for foreign entrepreneurs who wish to enter the Japanese market. To qualify, you must have a private office space in Japan in a dedicated non-residential location, a comprehensive business plan outlining your goals and projections, and at least 5 million yen in capital to fund your operations. This can be shown through your bank statements. This visa is perfect for those who want to fully commit to starting a business in Japan as well as live in here. Next, let's talk about the startup visa. The startup visa is a fantastic option if you only need time to access the Japanese market. It allows you to conduct market research and plan your business for up to 12 months. And at the end of that 6 to 12 months, decide if you want to transition to a business manager visa to continue your operations in Japan. It is important to note that with a startup visa, you won't be able to open a corporate bank account. So the business manager visa will be necessary after your initial startup period if you do wish to start a business in Japan. It's also important to note that your activities on your business or operation will be limited by your startup visa. And if you wish to expand your operations and your business in Japan, you will eventually have to switch to a business manager visa, or even earlier if you have decided to fully commit in Japan. Next, we have the highly skilled professional visa. The highly skilled professional visa is for those with specific expertise. It allows you to create a business, but your business plan must align with your background. For example, if you are trained in technology, starting a tech-related business is ideal. However, if you plan something unrelated to your expertise, like opening a restaurant, it might not qualify for your visa, and your business incorporation may get rejected. Finally, let's talk about a special visa, which is the J-5 visa. The J-5 visa caters to graduates from top universities around the world, allowing you to live in Japan without a job offer initially, or even starting a company right after coming here. Within that period, you can explore your entrepreneurship opportunities or any job opportunities in Japan. However, it is also important to note that after 2 years, you will need to transition to a business manager visa or another visa that is either permanent or family related. For a complete list of the qualifying universities, you can visit our website or check the YouTube description below to find a full list of universities that can apply for this visa. Next, let's talk about how to choose the right business structure for your company. There are 4 business structures you can consider. There's the Godo Kaisha, which is called GK for short. Comparable to a limited liability company, LLC, in other countries, a GK is basically favored by small businesses because of its straightforward setup and its operational flexibility. It offers limited liability protection to its members. And its registration fees is among the lowest for these type of for company incorporation, which is approximately 60,000 yen for the initial registration. Next, we have the Kabushiki Kaisha, KK. Similar to a corporation, which is limited LTD, a KK is suitable for larger enterprises aiming for scalability and investor engagement. It is a widely recognized and respected business structure in Japan. In addition to the registration fee, you will also need to notarize your articles of incorporation, which comes with a notarization fee. And it will be around 150,000 yen for your registration and around 50,000 yen for your notarization process. There's also a special kind of company called the Yugen Kaisha, which is called YK. This was basically a form of limited liability company before the introduction of the GK, Godo Kaisha. You cannot establish any new Yugen Kaisha anymore, but you can still purchase one, which is why we have 4 as the asterisk here. Some entrepreneurs acquire existing YK companies to present an image of longevity, which can be advantageous in sales and marketing in Japan. And there are no registration fee related to Yugen Kaisha because it only applies to acquisitions. Next, let's talk about the pros and cons of each structure. Here's a TLDR version on the screen for your notes, but I will go into deeper for each point of pros and cons here. So let's start with Godo Kaisha. So one of the biggest advantage for Godo Kaisha is flexibility. GK offers substantially more flexibility in management, allowing members to operate without a rigid corporate governance structure. So there's no need for there's no need for a shareholder annual meetings, which is required by Kabushiki Kaisha. It's also easier for you to move around your staff and any management position. Another advantage is in its affordability. Initial registration and costs are generally lower for Godo Kaisha compared to a KK Kabushiki Kaisha, making it an attractive choice for startups or small businesses. Another point we would like to mention is unlimited liability protection. Another advantage we would like to mention is the limited liability protection. Members or owners have limited liability, which protects their personal assets from business debts. Finally, it's also basically easier to set up and maintain for GK. A GK does not require notarization of its articles of incorporation, which saves basically the processing time and setup time. Establishing a GK usually takes around 2 to 3 weeks. Next, let's talk about the KK. So for the pros, it has really high credibility in Japan. It's the most established corporate structure, often viewed as a mark of stability and professionalism. It is the preferred choice for larger businesses and foreign companies expanding into Japan, apart from some exceptions like Amazon. Another pro is for KK is the attractiveness to investors. KK have more structured corporate governance, such as requiring shareholder meetings and a board of directors. This setup appeals to investors, especially for companies seeking significant funding. Another advantage is in the limited liability protection. Like a GK, the KK also provides limited liability for its shareholders. Finally, the scalability for KK is also an advantage, as the structure is better suited for business aiming to scale, specifically if they want to issue stock or bring on multiple investors in the future. So turning on to some cons for KK, it has a high setup cost and complexity. Establishing a KK is more expensive, with registration fee of at least 150,000 and an additional notarization fee of approximately 50,000 yen. Ongoing compliance requirements such as formal meetings and filings also add to that operational cost. It also has a longer setup time. Notarization is required for KK, so it generally takes longer, usually around 4 to 5 weeks. Next, we will go over the pros and cons for the branch office. So for pro, you will get direct control from the parent company. A branch office allows foreign companies to directly manage operations in Japan, ensuring alignment with the company's board goals and policies. Another pro is it's simple to set up for foreign companies. Establishing a branch office takes the same amount of time as setting up a GK. Since a branch office is established using the articles of incorporation and capital of the head office, if you bring all the necessary documents from the head office to Japan, it will only take about 2 to 3 weeks to set up the branch. All documents must be translated into Japanese though. Additionally, the appointment document for the branch manager must be notarized at the embassy of the country the company is originated. Finally, it also has a lower setup cost compared to forming a KK. Setting up a branch office is generally less expensive, with a registration fee of around 90,000 yen. Moving on to some cons for the branch office. It has limited scope of activities. The activities of a branch office are generally restricted to those directly authorized by the parent company, limiting the flexibility in expanding its operations or offerings within Japan. It is also dependent on the parent company. The branch office liabilities and obligations are tied to the parent company, which may discourage some clients or partners from doing business with a branch office. Finally, there's also the restrictions in funding and taxes. Since a branch office is not an independent entity, it cannot raise capital in Japan as easily as for example, a KK. And also the Japanese taxes or income generated at your branch office will be subjected to Japanese taxes. We would like to say a few words about a sole proprietorship structure as well. It is a very easy to set up, and it has lower taxes for people who are earning less in Japan. And this is more suitable for a one-man business. It should be noted that a sole proprietorship structure will not satisfy your requirements for a visa. So for your business manager visa, you will need one of these three structures mentioned here. So a Godo Kaisha, a Kabushiki Kaisha, or a branch office. Next, let's talk about some key requirements for your business before you start your incorporation process. Let's start with some capital requirements. For KK and GK, while there's technically no minimum capital requirement for establishing a GK or a KK, starting with zero capital is not very practical. So a common recommendation is to have at least 1 million to 5 million yen, especially for KK, as this amount signals stability to banks, investors, and partners, and will help you get more credibility. This enables you to get a larger loan and can present you as a more reliable business in Japan. We also provide support with loans and subsidies, so this is a great question to ask us if you do wish to contact us in the future. Next, let's talk about the capital requirements for a business manager visa. Foreign entrepreneurs who need a business manager visa must invest at least 5 million, about 35,000 USD, in capital to meet the visa requirements. How you transfer the money can sometimes be a tricky process, so we recommend you to book a free consultation with us, and we can help you with the business manager visa. Basically, a common question we get is why specifically 5 million yen? Well, aside from the reserve requirement, the initial capital not only funds the business setup, but it also serves as a working capital for your initial expenses, such as office, rent, salaries, and supplies. In Japan, starting with a healthy capital base is beneficial for building credibility with banks and vendors, who may view low capital as a risk. Adding more capital later is not as simple as depositing money into the bank. If you plan to put a lot of capital, please contact us first. Let us help you avoid making mistakes in the future. Next, let's talk about having your office. So for the legal requirements for having a physical address, all business in Japan, whether you are a GK or KK or branch office, are required to register a physical address in Japan. This address will be the official business location and must be documented in the business articles of incorporation. Some people have asked us whether using a virtual or shared office is possible. We understand this because it's for a lot of startups and small businesses, securing a full office space, especially in Tokyo, can be costly. Options like virtual office and shared workspace are available plenty in Tokyo, especially. But for some visas, like the business manager visa, you will still require a proof of an actual private office space. So for offices like co-working spaces or virtual offices will not be possible if you are thinking about applying for a business manager visa. Co-working spaces are also another popular option if you don't need the visa. It gives flexibility and cost saving, especially if you have a small team. Let's talk about some personal requirements next. For identification, all representatives of a company or corporation in Japan must have a valid ID. So either for Japanese, this will be their passport or their driver's license. For foreigners, this will be your residential card. You would also need a Japanese bank account. To open a bank account in Japan, you must first have a residence card, which indicates they have an address. The person who owns a visa have an actual address and a visa. And in addition to this, all business also need a corporate bank account to facilitate smooth transactions with other companies. Many company or corporations refuse to do business with those who do not have a corporate account in Japan. Finally, let's talk about the business seals, what we call inkan or hanko. In Japan, a company seal, inkan or hanko, is legally required for various business operation, including official documents, signing, opening a bank account, or registering a business. Each company must register its corporate seal with the Ministry of Justice, since it serves as the company's signature for legal transaction. There are 3 types of business seals or hanko that we will use on a regular basis. The first one, and the most important one, is the representative director stamp, and it's used for incorporation and any of your contract documents, and it's 100% needed. So it's the next one, which is the seal for your corporate bank. Usually it's smaller than your representative seal, but there's no requirement on the exact size or format. But this is also 100% needed, and you'll be using it a lot. The one that you won't be using a lot is what we call the square seal or the kakunin. It has a very limited use and it's not critical, but it usually comes with a corporate seal set. So if you're going to get 2, you might as well get 3. So there are some situations you will need to use that. Oh, and for a recommendation for where to get these seals. For where to get these seals, we will leave some recommendations in the description down below. Next, let's go through this registration process for your company step by step. First, you'll need to choose and register for a company name. When choosing a name, ensure it aligns with Japanese standards, especially for certain words like bank or insurance. They are restricted unless, your business sector is, in the banking sector. The name must be in Japanese character or a combination of Japanese and Roman characters. Aim for a unique name that reflects your brand, as it cannot conflict with existing registered business. You also need to choose whether to put corporation before or after your name. So for example, if your company name is Apple, then you need to be either Corporation Apple or like Kaisha Apple or Apple Corporation or Apple Kaisha. Another important point is to avoid potential conflicts in your name. So before finalizing the name, you need to conduct a name search on the Ministry of Justice website or consult with the Legal Affairs Bureau to avoid duplication with any existing registered companies. If you choose a similar name, your applications may be rejected, which can lead to delays in your registration process. You can find a link on how to check this in our video description. Next, step 2, we have to prepare the articles of incorporation, the teikan as we call it. The Articles of Incorporation outlines the essential company details that includes your company purpose, head office address, shareholder information, director and representative directors, and as well as your initial capital. For those who are thinking about starting a KK instead of a GK, your Articles of incorporation will need to be notarized, and the notarization fee is around 50,000 yen, and there's no such requirement for GK. Next, we'll dive a bit deeper into the articles of incorporation notarization process, and this is only for KK. Those who are thinking about starting a Godo Kaisha, you can skip this part. Notarize your articles of incorporation. For KK, notarizing articles of incorporation is a mandatory step for basically legally certify the documents of authenticity and ensure compliance with Japanese regulations. This process involves the following steps. First, you will need to prepare your articles of incorporation. Basically, make sure that all essential details are accurately documented, including the company's purpose, shareholder information, director wills, and any other legally required information, which we will tell you about in our free consultation. For KK, it is also recommended for your stock price to be set to 1 yen. It is easier for people to invest in your company, and it's easier to manage the capitalization table of your company as well. So after you have created your articles of incorporation, the next step is to visit a notary public. Basically bring the prepared articles of incorporation to a notary public in Japan, who will review and certify your document. Certification by a notary basically makes sure that all your included details meet the legal standards, which is the prerequisite for a KK registration. Finally, you will pay the notarization fee. The cost of a notarization articles of incorporation is around 50,000 yen, as I've mentioned. It's recommended to basically confirm the fee details in advance and bring the requirement amount to the notary office in advance. For those who have skipped the notarization process, welcome back. And we'll talk about the deposit steps to deposit your capital. So one of the first steps in establishing a corporation is listing out your capital contributions. And basically, the individuals that are providing the capital for your company are referred to as incorporators. So these incorporators will deposit the capital into a bank account, attach a deposit certificate to the application, and then submit it to the Ministry of Justice to establish the corporation. The deposit must be made on a date after your articles of incorporations have been created. For foreigners establishing a corporation for the first time, it is often not possible to deposit the capital into a personal bank account, as you don't have a Japanese bank account yet. So, an alternative is to deposit your capital via a Tokyo branch office or the main office in their home country of a Japanese bank. This process requires a high degree of specialization and must follow specific procedures and methods. And this is a process that we can help you with. So if there are any confusions, feel free to reach out. An important point to note or get is your proof of capital deposit. After depositing your capital, you will need to obtain a proof of the transaction from the bank, like a bank statement or a transaction slip, to present it during the registration process. Next, we will talk about registering with the Legal Affairs Bureau. Basically, what you will do is submit the following documents to the Legal Affairs Bureau for your company registration. So your articles of incorporation, it needs to be notarized in advance for KK, capital deposit certificate, your company seal certificate, if you have a company seal already, and your personal ID for your company's directors or founders. And here are the fees once again. For KK, it's around 150,000 yen plus your notarization fee, which 50,000 yen. And for GK, it's only around 60,000 yen total. Next, we will need to get your company seal or inkan. The company seal is legally required for various official documents in Japan, including contracts, bank transactions, and registration of documents. It acts as the company's signature and is customarily used in the place of a signature. So instead of like signing by a CEO, you would use the inkan instead in Japan. As I've mentioned, there are three main types of seals that you will use. And for more details on the different types of seals, refer back to the previous section where we have talked about the income. Finally, we will talk about some tax and social insurance registrations. After you incorporate your company, the first thing you need to do is register for the corporate taxes. So at the local tax office, this includes income tax, corporate tax, and other relevant business taxes that you will need to file. This is a very specific process with a lot of complexity. So we highly recommend getting a tax accountant to do this on your behalf. So the next step is social insurance registration. If you have any employees, register for social insurance through the Japanese pension services, covering health insurance and pension contributions and employment services, unemployment insurance, I should say. And these will all be required. For self-employed individuals or sole proprietors, social insurance requirements may vary. The final thing you have to register for is your labor insurance. Additionally, registering for a labor insurance basically includes your employment insurance and workers' compensation at the local labor standard office if you have plans to hire employees. These registrations will ensure your compliance with the Japanese labor and tax regulations. And that's it for the company registration process. Once you have done all this, you would have your own company in Japan. Finally, I want to spend the last minute to talk about some specific scenarios for some industry-specific licenses or permits if you would like to start a business in a specific status, which we are going to talk about now. So certain businesses activities in Japan will require a industry-specific licenses or permits. Basically, some common licenses here you can see below are food and beverage licenses for basically restaurant and business, real estate license, which is required for buying, selling, and leasing properties, a travel agency license if you are offering a tourism or travel services, and an import and export licenses, which if you are trading for international goods in Japan. And that's it. Thank you for listening. And yeah, just one more time, we are SmartStart Japan. We help with incorporation, subsidies, and loans after you have established your company, as well as all your revenue growth needs after you have successfully incorporated in Japan. We know this process can be very stressful, so if you would like our expert help, visit smartstartjapan.com to contact us and book a free consultation.